Hi, my name is Adam Cox. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, phobia expert, founder of phobiaguru.com, and known as the UK's leading expert at eliminating phobias rapidly, quite often in just a single session. Aerophobia is the fear of flying, and I have to say, after phobias such as spiders and kind of blood, it's probably one of the most common fears that I actually work with. And the reason for that is that it's a very, very restrictive fear. The fear of flying actually doesn't just exist when people are in the air. The anxiety starts way before that. If people know that they have to be in a particular location and that they're likely to need to fly to get to that destination, the anxiety can start even at the point of thinking that they may have to travel overseas. Other triggers might be booking tickets, or hearing news that there might be a family wedding or a business trip that they need to be abroad. All these things can actually create a feeling of anxiety. For those people that when they get to the airport that have aerophobia, again, heightened levels of anxiety, things like going through passport control and checking in luggage. The biggest trigger, however, tends to be actually going onto the plane, putting the seatbelt on, and then the anticipation before the flight takes off. Now, some of the symptoms to give you a clue as to whether or not you have aerophobia or you know someone with aerophobia, these aren't conscious choices, by the way, because the heart rate increases, the breathing rate increases. There tends to be compulsive thoughts about their own safety as to whether or not they can get off the plane. And shakes, sometimes even tears. So it's a very, very distressing phobia. A lot of people tend to try and cope with either self-medication, and that might be alcohol, for example. And in fact, quite a high percentage of people that get arrested on aeroplanes for being drunk actually do so because they are using alcohol as a coping strategy to deal with this fear of flying. So it's not helpful to be intoxicated while you're on a plane just because of all the laws and the rules that are there. Some people will use prescription medication, such as beta blockers, to try and reduce the level of anxiety, sometimes antidepressants, which can obviously lead to addictions or your body habituating and getting used to that medication. So it really isn't a good strategy to use medication or alcohol. Obviously, even worse if people combine the two as a coping strategy. The causes of aerophobia, most phobias are created by two key reasons. Either a learned response by someone in the family. So if your parents have a fear of flying, then as a child you might have seen them in a anxious or a heightened anxiety state at the idea of flying, and you might have just learned, an unconscious belief that flying is dangerous and therefore it's okay to be scared. Or it might have been a sensitizing event, and that sensitizing event could be in a particular plane ride if there was turbulence, if there was some kind of weather that was unexpected, or perhaps it was a bad or bumpy landing or something like that, that might create such high levels of anxiety that the brain then links that anxiety to being on a plane. And then that can actually mean that in all future journeys, there is this goal of avoiding that element of the anxiety that you've experienced again. So it's a horrible, horrible fear. The implications for those people that have this fear is that they tend to avoid flying. And I think modern technology has helped people that have a fear of flying because they can say, hey, let's do a video conference, let's have a phone call instead, and there are now lots of alternatives to physically needing to be in a particular place and using air travel to get there. So a lot of people that have this fear of flying will take vacations or holidays where they don't need to fly, so that might be a combination of driving or ferries or, trains and things like that. But it can have a impact on their family that might love to travel further afield. It can affect business deals, because a lot of people still like to meet people in face-to-face situations. So a lot of the people that I've actually worked with this fear of flying are because opportunities in terms of either family, home life, or particularly in terms of career, mean that avoidance is no longer an effective strategy. They physically need to be in certain locations, and the flying is how they have to get there. So avoidance is no longer a viable option for them. I worked with one man, for example, whose daughter had moved overseas. And the only way that he would get to see his daughter again, outside of her visiting him, is if he went there. And then that meant that he had the motive now to actually kind of face this fear of flying. So the implications tend to be avoidance. It can affect family life, career, but it is solvable. And the solutions, really, there's two main ways in which I help people solve or resolve this fear of flying. Some people, I have a download, 7 different downloads over 7 days that help people to break the very foundation of their fear. So you can visit my site, phobiaguru.com, for details on that 7-day phobia elimination download that might be able to help. Most people, however, prefer to work with me one-on-one, because I'm able to elicit specific situations and stimulus and criteria from you as an individual, so I can get to the root cause of your fear, because it might not be quite the same as other people's. The structure might be similar, but there might be similar situations. I've had some people that it's the bit where it just takes off that gives them, heightened levels of anxiety, or for other people, it's if there is any turbulence, or it's when it's about to land, or whatever it might be. So, working one-on-one, I'm able to elicit and calibrate to the specific details of an individual. And there should be a link nearby to this video where you can book a free 30-minute consultation call with me, no cost whatsoever, to ask me questions. I can explain what I've done with other people, how quickly I anticipate being able to work with you with your specific phobia, so that you're in a position to work with me one-on-one. I tend to do virtually all my sessions these days on Zoom, which means I'm able to work with people all over the world, just as well as I could do face-to-face. So I hope this video has been useful for you. If you know anyone with a fear of flying, perhaps share this video, because it might be able to help them. Equally, if you have any questions or comments, put them below and I'll respond as soon as I can. Hope it's been useful. Take care.